Iran had calculated that its network of proxy forces would shield it from direct confrontation. However, the steel ring now tightening around Tehran proves that distance provides no sanctuary when adversaries coordinate with surgical precision. On March 15, 2026, a series of synchronized military movements across 3 continents began reshaping the strategic landscape surrounding the Islamic Republic. What appeared as isolated deployments in the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, and the Caucasus region has revealed itself as something far more coordinated. Elite special operations units from 6 nations are now positioned within striking distance of Iranian territory, creating the most comprehensive encirclement Tehran has faced since the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s. The images you are about to see on your screens document this unprecedented military convergence. What you see is not routine naval exercises or standard deployments. The footage shows the most sophisticated coordinated positioning of Western and Allied forces around a single adversary in modern military history. In the images that will appear on your screen shortly, you will witness how technology, intelligence sharing, and strategic patience have combined to create what defense analysts are calling an inescapable tactical sphere. But that is not the most shocking detail. There are 3 primary elements that made this encirclement possible, and the third element represents a geopolitical shift that even the most experienced observers failed to predict. Now we descend to that first moment when it all began, to the sun-scorched waters of the Red Sea on March 8, 2026. According to reports from the Institute for the Study of War, Operation Maritime Shield commenced with the deployment of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group to a position 240 nautical miles southwest of the Yemeni port of Hodeidah. This placement was no coincidence. The carrier group, accompanied by 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and 1 Ticonderoga-class cruiser equipped with the latest Aegis Baseline 10 combat systems, established a blockade zone that effectively severed Iranian supply lines to Houthi forces in Yemen. Within 72 hours, satellite imagery confirmed the arrival of French Marine Nationale assets, including the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle, creating a combined strike capability of over 120 fixed-wing aircraft operating from 2 separate carrier groups. The location you see on the screen is the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which controls access to the Red Sea and through which 12% of global maritime trade passes daily. This narrow choke point, just 18 miles wide at its narrowest point, has become the southern anchor of Tehran's encirclement. But wait, the deployment pattern becomes truly revealing when we examine the second convergence point. On March 12, 2026, British Special Boat Service units and American Navy SEALs conducted joint insertion exercises in the northern Persian Gulf, specifically in waters off the coast of Kuwait. According to German intelligence reports, these were not standard training operations. Radio Free Europe reporters documented the simultaneous arrival of Israeli Shayetet 13 naval commandos at a forward operating base in the United Arab Emirates, marking the first publicly confirmed cooperation between Israeli special forces and Gulf Cooperation Council member states on Arabian Peninsula soil. The coordination demonstrates something unprecedented. We are witnessing the operational integration of forces that, until recently, existed in separate strategic universes. The technical capabilities these elite units bring to the theater represent a quantum leap in expeditionary warfare capacity. The American SEAL teams deployed to the region belong to Naval Special Warfare Development Group, commonly known as DevGRU, equipped with the latest MH-47G Chinook helicopters modified for extended-range maritime operations. These aircraft, fitted with advanced terrain-following radar systems and aerial refueling capabilities, can insert strike teams 400 miles inland from coastal launch points and extract them within a 6-hour operational window. The British SBS units operate with similar capabilities, utilizing Merlin HC-4 helicopters with defensive aid suites that render them nearly invisible to Iran's Russian-supplied Tor M1 air defense systems. But the truly revolutionary element emerges from Israeli capabilities. According to Defense Ministry announcements from Tel Aviv, the Shayetet 13 teams now employ autonomous underwater vehicles capable of beach reconnaissance and mine clearance operations at depths exceeding 200 meters, a capability that fundamentally alters amphibious assault calculations. The weapons systems accompanying these deployments tell their own story. Each SEAL platoon operates with Mark 48 Mod 7 torpedoes for maritime interdiction, while Israeli units have introduced the Spike NLOS missile system with a range of 25 kilometers, allowing precision strikes from positions well beyond Iranian coastal radar coverage. The SBS teams carry L-129A1 sharpshooter rifles effective at ranges exceeding 1,000 meters, perfect for long-range reconnaissance and high-value target elimination. German intelligence reports indicate that French commandos marine have integrated with this force structure, bringing Cerberus counter-terrorism specialists trained specifically in securing weapons of mass destruction sites. The technical vocabulary here matters deeply. When defense analysts discuss fiber optic guided munitions, real-time satellite coordination, and multi-domain battle networks, they are describing a capability to strike targets inside Iran with precision that would have seemed impossible just 5 years ago. This tactical convergence enables operational advantages that cascade into strategic consequences. The immediate battlefield result creates a 720-degree surveillance and interdiction zone around Iranian territory. Every maritime approach, every air corridor, every potential breakout route now sits under constant monitoring by an integrated sensor network combining satellite imagery, airborne radar platforms, and subsurface acoustic arrays. This leads to tactical advantage in the form of complete maritime domain awareness. Iranian naval vessels cannot leave port without immediate detection and tracking. This enables operational maneuver through what military planners call sea control, the ability to use ocean space while denying it to adversaries. Sea control creates strategic shift by severing Iran's ability to support proxy forces in Yemen, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. Without maritime logistics chains, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force cannot sustain the weapons flows and financial transfers that maintain Tehran's regional influence network, which creates geopolitical consequence that reaches far beyond the Middle East. China and Russia, Iran's primary strategic partners, now face a demonstration of Western expeditionary capabilities that directly challenges their own regional ambitions. The encirclement of Iran serves as proof of concept for similar operations that could be deployed around contested territories in the South China Sea or the Black Sea region. This is not merely about containing one regional power. This is about re-establishing the credibility of American alliance structures and demonstrating that coordinated democratic powers possess overwhelming conventional superiority when they choose to deploy it. Now, let's turn the camera away from the southern and eastern maritime approaches and look north to the Caucasus region, where the third and most surprising element of this encirclement has materialized. On March 18, 2026, Azerbaijan announced a comprehensive defense cooperation agreement with Israel and Turkey, formalizing what had been a shadowy intelligence relationship into an open military partnership. The agreement grants Israeli Air Force access to 3 Azerbaijani airbases within 200 miles of the Iranian border, positioning F-35I Adir stealth fighters within a 5-minute flight time to Tehran. According to preliminary data from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, this deployment represents the closest positioning of 5th-generation strike aircraft to Iranian leadership targets in history. Turkey's contribution to this northern axis involves deployment of Bayraktar Akinci unmanned combat aerial vehicles to Azerbaijani bases, the same platform that proved devastatingly effective against Russian and Syrian air defenses during previous regional conflicts. This situation reminds us of the strategic encirclement that presaged major 20th-century conflicts, but with a crucial difference. The current positioning relies not on massive troop concentrations, but on precision strike capabilities and intelligence dominance. The picture we see today carries echoes of 1991, when coalition forces surrounded Iraq before Operation Desert Storm, but the technological sophistication has advanced exponentially. Then surveillance relied on reconnaissance aircraft and early satellite systems. Now the integration of space-based sensors, cyber warfare capabilities, and real-time data fusion creates an intelligence picture so comprehensive that Iranian military planners must assume every communication is intercepted, every movement is tracked, and every defensive position is mapped with meter-level precision. The economic dimensions of this encirclement compound the military pressure. With NATO naval forces controlling the Strait of Hormuz approaches and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, Iran's ability to export oil faces unprecedented vulnerability. The Strait of Hormuz, which carries approximately 21 million barrels of oil per day, roughly 21% of global petroleum consumption, represents Iran's economic lifeline. According to German intelligence reports, insurance rates for tankers willing to load at Iranian ports have increased by 400% since the encirclement began, effectively pricing Iranian crude out of international markets even without formal sanctions enforcement. South Korea, Japan, and India, historically Iran's largest oil customers, have already begun diverting orders to Saudi Arabian and Emirati suppliers, cutting Iranian oil revenue by an estimated 67% in the first quarter of 2026. The alliance dynamics this operation reveals mark a fundamental realignment in Middle Eastern geopolitics. Israel's open cooperation with Gulf Arab states and Azerbaijan represents the full normalization of relationships that began with the Abraham Accords of 2020, but the truly shocking development is Turkey's participation. A NATO member that previously maintained complex relationships with Iran now openly provides military support for operations designed to constrain Tehran. This reflects Ankara's calculation that Iranian regional ambitions threaten Turkish interests in Syria, Iraq, and the Caucasus more than any potential benefits from maintaining cordial relations with the Islamic Republic. The integration of French, British, and American Special Operations Forces demonstrates renewed European commitment to Middle Eastern security, reversing a decade of gradual withdrawal from the region. But let's move a little further into the human dimension of this strategic chess game, because the men and women executing this encirclement face dangers that statistics and technical specifications cannot capture. The soldier you see in the footage is a member of the British Special Boat Service, conducting underwater reconnaissance of Iranian coastal defenses near Bandar Abbas. The expression on his face, barely visible through his rebreather apparatus, shows not fear, but the intense concentration of someone who understands that a single technical malfunction or detection event could trigger an international crisis. These operators work in conditions where the margin between success and catastrophic failure measures in seconds and meters. One American SEAL team leader, speaking on condition of anonymity to defense journalists, described the psychological pressure of operating within Iranian territorial waters as the most intense experience of his 15-year career, surpassing multiple combat deployments in Afghanistan and Iraq. Leadership psychology on the Iranian side reveals a regime facing impossible calculations. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, now 87 years old, built his strategic doctrine on the assumption that American forces, exhausted by 2 decades of Middle Eastern wars, would never again commit to major regional operations. That assumption has shattered against the reality of coordinated Allied encirclement executed without putting a single American soldier on Iranian soil. According to reports from Radio Free Europe, internal Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps assessments obtained by Western intelligence agencies showed deep concern about the regime's ability to maintain defensive coherence against an adversary that can strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. The Iranian military's traditional reliance on defensive depth, using geography and population centers to complicate invasion, provides no protection against precision strikes delivered by special operations forces and standoff weapons. The civilian impact of this encirclement manifests in ways that demonstrate the comprehensive nature of modern strategic pressure. Iranian citizens in Tehran and other major cities report unprecedented difficulties accessing international financial systems as secondary sanctions pressure intensifies. Youth unemployment has reached 39% according to Iranian government statistics, a figure most independent economists believe significantly understates actual joblessness. The rial has lost 73% of its value against the dollar in the first quarter of 2026, making imported goods unaffordable for average Iranians even when they can find them. This economic pain creates internal political pressure that compounds the external military threat, forcing Iranian leadership to contemplate whether maintaining regional proxy networks justifies the domestic suffering their pursuit has generated. Could this encirclement trigger exactly the crisis it aims to prevent? That question haunts defense planners in Washington, London, Paris, and Tel Aviv. When you corner an adversary this comprehensively, you create incentives for desperate action. If Iran feels its survival is threatened, the calculus changes from deterrence to preemption. The Islamic Republic possesses stockpiles of precision-guided missiles capable of striking every American base in the region, every Israeli city, and every Gulf Arab oil facility within a 1-200-mile radius of Iranian territory. A cornered regime might calculate that launching massive preemptive strikes represents a better option than waiting for Western Special Operations Forces to decapitate leadership or destroy nuclear facilities. This is where things get really strange. The very success of the encirclement creates instability that could make conflict more rather than less likely. The coming months may be one of the bloodiest chapters in modern Middle Eastern history, or they may represent the moment when comprehensive conventional superiority achieved its strategic objective without firing a shot. We are at the end of the slowly phase. The suddenly phase may be much closer than you think. Western intelligence agencies monitor Iranian leadership communications for indicators of desperation or miscalculation. Every unusual troop movement, every change in rhetoric, every technical preparation at missile sites gets analyzed for signs that Tehran might choose catastrophic escalation over strategic capitulation. The Israeli Air Force maintains aircraft on 15-minute alert status, ready to launch preemptive strikes if intelligence indicates imminent Iranian attack. American carrier groups in the Persian Gulf operate under rules of engagement that authorize immediate response to any hostile action without waiting for Washington approval. But there exists an alternative scenario that Western planners hope will materialize. Comprehensive encirclement might force Iranian leadership to fundamentally reassess strategic priorities. Faced with overwhelming conventional disadvantage, economic collapse, and internal political pressure, the regime might calculate that de-escalation represents the only path to survival. This could manifest as withdrawal of support for proxy forces, acceptance of enhanced nuclear inspection protocols, or even tentative diplomatic engagement with regional adversaries. According to CSIS analysis, voices within the Iranian power structure have begun advocating for exactly this strategic pivot, arguing that the costs of regional hegemony ambitions exceed any conceivable benefits. Whether these voices can prevail against hardline factions remains uncertain. The technological revolution in warfare this operation demonstrates will reshape global strategic calculations for decades. The ability to project overwhelming force through small numbers of highly sophisticated personnel and platforms fundamentally alters great power competition. China watches this encirclement with acute interest, recognizing that similar capabilities could be deployed around Taiwan or in the South China Sea. Russia observes how NATO special operations integration has advanced, noting that similar coordination could threaten Russian positions in Syria, Libya, or even the Caucasus. The era of mass mechanized warfare appears to be giving way to an age of precision strike, special operations, and intelligence dominance. The nation that masters this new paradigm will possess decisive strategic advantages in the conflicts of the coming decades. Only time will tell whether this ring of steel around Iran produces the strategic breakthrough Western planners envision or triggers the regional conflagration they seek to prevent. What we know with certainty is that the Middle Eastern security architecture has entered a new phase. The days when Iranian proxy forces could operate with impunity across the region have ended. The assumption that geography and asymmetric capabilities could offset conventional military disadvantages has been tested and found wanting. Tehran now confronts a reality where its leadership, its military infrastructure, and its economic lifelines sit within reach of adversaries possessing the capability and demonstrated willingness to strike with precision and overwhelming force. The elite forces closing in on Tehran represent more than military deployments. They embody a strategic message that democracies, when sufficiently threatened and properly coordinated, retain the capacity for decisive action. The encirclement demonstrates that authoritarian regimes cannot assume Western hesitation will remain constant, that provocations carry no ultimate price, that gradual escalation faces no red lines. Iran's supreme leader set out to build a sphere of influence stretching from the Mediterranean to the Arabian Sea. Today he finds himself trapped inside a comprehensive containment architecture built by adversaries he underestimated. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this topic in the comments section. Do you think this unprecedented encirclement will force Iran to de-escalate, or will it trigger the very conflict it aims to prevent? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like our video. The coming weeks will reveal whether strategic patience and overwhelming conventional superiority can resolve regional conflicts without the bloodshed that has defined Middle Eastern geopolitics for generations. At TGN, we will continue to examine every detail of this developing crisis as elite forces maintain their positions and the world watches to see whether Tehran chooses strategic retreat or desperate escalation. The ring of steel now surrounds Iran like nothing in modern history. The elite forces are in position, the technologies are operational, and the strategic coordination is complete. What Iran calculated would never happen has materialized with shocking speed and comprehensive scope. The question now is not whether the encirclement will hold, but whether it will achieve its strategic objective peacefully or through the fire and destruction its architects hope to avoid. Presented by TGN. Thank you for choosing us.